Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. In today's video, I decided to refilm a video that I have actually tried to film like 3 or 4 times now. And I'm not sure why I've had such trouble. It's just kind of been bad luck, I guess. I was trying a various number of setups to be able to read this book or kind of flip through it and have it and myself in frame at the same time. But it's been very difficult to get the perfect setup, and earlier on in some of my earlier renditions of filming, I was trying to do it in the different room in my house where there's a lot of background noise, so I just had problem after problem and it's been months since I've filmed this. So technically I've spent about 4.5 hours refilming this exact same thing, but I think it's been long enough now that my anger towards it has subsided, and I really do think that this book is kind of a treat and something worth sharing. So before I pack it up, I'm going to one more time try to film this, and hopefully it'll turn out okay this time. So what is this magical tome? This is called the Creative Cooking Course, and it is an older kind of home, I don't know, it doesn't just have recipes in it. It also has like everything that you would have learned in home ec if you were a female, and it's very sexist and outdated, which kind of makes it funny and a true relic in my opinion. This is certainly the only text in my house that is like this. It was something that was passed down through my maternal line of family members. And it's just a very, very interesting book. Based on the style, I would think that it's maybe 60s or 70s, but I'm really not sure when it was created. So since this is such an old book and certainly not something that people are still buying or looking for, I don't think it's a problem to read small excerpts from it. I'm definitely not going to read it all the way through, of course, and it is like hundreds and hundreds of pages long, and it's not very well divided from what I remember. It jumps around a lot, and the one thing I will give it is that it really does talk about everything from food to preparation, everything to know about like the kitchen and different utensils and drinks, place settings, just anything that you could need to know as a housewife is in this book. And it's been very, very interesting to read through some of it and see just how different society has become, and also just to imagine what it would have been like to have these kinds of things expected of you to live your life as a housewife. It's just very interesting, and I'm sure I'll say more about that, but just in case that sets anyone wrong, I don't actually have an issue with being a housewife, I think that some people naturally have the gifts to make a home, and I think that I, in a lot of ways, fall into that category. I feel like I very much could have been a docile housewife if that was what the time period called for, and I don't think I would have been unhappy, because I guess there are a lot of things that I'm just good at, or that I have a natural like affinity for, that are involved in being a homemaker, and also being a mother, if you want to include that as part of it, which of course that's a whole nother job unto itself. But just trying to say that I'm not knocking anyone who is a housewife, who doesn't want to like have their things paid for and make a nice home for their family. I think that that's a relevant and fine thing to do. So anyhow, I probably didn't say all of that as gracefully as I could have, but I just don't want anyone upset right off the bat here. So it says, welcome to the creative cooking course. You are now beginning an adventure in creative cooking. In the series of carefully organized lessons that follow, you will learn through progressive steps how to cook with authority, with flair, with creativity. The creative cooking course is designed to teach you classic cookery. You will become familiar with many classic recipes and techniques of both Occidental and Oriental cooking. You will, for example, learn to prepare basic sauces of French haute cuisine, vinaigrette, béchamel, velouté, hollandaise. You will discover how to make breads, pasta, puff pastries, engraved aspic, Belgian soufflé, omelets, pâté maison. The methods of preparation for these dishes have been simplified in many instances, not to change the authenticity of the dish, but to fit them into the active life of the modern creative homemaker. Throughout the creative cooking course, you will find recipes and techniques marked with the cooking course symbol, the creative homemaker's wheel of spoons. The colored spoon in the larger wheels serves as a marker for one of the 16 divisions of the course. The boxed black wheel of spoons is used to identify a basic recipe or technique. All of the basic recipes or techniques will be used many times in varying combinations during the course. Study them carefully. As you gain familiarity with the basic recipes, subsequent lessons will become easier for you. The general information section of this course explains the basics of creative cookery. Read the first 2 pages of this section to understand the concept and principles of the course. Creative cooking can be fun. It is even more fun when you enter your kitchen with confidence, with the knowledge that you know exactly what to do and how to do it. This course will give you that confidence. So enjoy the course. Work hard, work carefully, but above all, enjoy what you're doing. Good cooking. So, a little bit of cheese grated on this foreword. This is the magical wheel of spoons here that they were talking about. And you can see that there are a bunch of spoons fanned in a circle. And based on the number of spoons that are shaded in, it indicates the difficulty and type of recipe on that page. Another reason why this book is so great is because it has these wonderful magazine type pages that are very crinkly and satisfying when you turn them. And you may have also noticed that it is raining outside, which is one of my favorite times to film. I just feel so cozy and calm, and I hope that you all can enjoy the sounds as well. Okay, so the next page just kind of explains all of the different categories that are going to be in the book. General information, appetizers and soups, salads and relishes, eggs and cheese, beef, pork, lamb, variety meats and game, poultry, seafood, pasta and cereals, vegetables, sauces, breads, desserts, and beverages. And I believe that it goes in that order, except for the fact that, like I said, it's not like each section is exclusive to these things. It feels like there's a lot of ingredient overlap, and it doesn't always seem to make sense to me, but that's all right. You can see kind of that, like, I guess somewhat modern 70s, postmodern, whatever, like look, I think, in the style of this. Just in the font and the coloring, even the use of the circle just kind of reminds me of like that hippie sort of movement. So I think the reason why they spend so many pages trying to hype you up is because a lot of this stuff looks actually really difficult. And I cook a lot, but it's all very more complex, I guess, in this book, because they're really gearing you towards like throwing the perfect dinner for your high-class society friends. So things are like really overdone. They start off talking about cooking utensils for your kitchen, and they have a picture here which they boast is in color, and in this picture they have a number of cooking utensils followed by a little diagram which corresponds with all of the utensils. So in case you're trying to learn what one of them is or find a specific one, you can look at the diagram of the color picture and find out what it is. So they actually do have a couple things here that I don't know what they are. So I'll read all of the things that they have pictured, and if one of them is something I don't know, I'll read the description as well. They have a metal pie server, metal spatula, sharpening steel, a wooden drum, which is also called a tome, I guess. Tome. It's a professional cook's fine mesh sieve used as a sifter of flour and sugar, or as a strainer for smooth sauces. The derivation of the word temi is French from tamise, meaning to sieve very finely. Originally, fine worsted or a blend of woolen and cotton cloths called tammy cloths were rubbed together to strain liquids into smooth sauces. Our drum sieve has finely woven horsehair as the straining fiber. I don't know how I feel about that. As I've mentioned in a previous video, I have like a really weird thing that some of you share with me about loose hair. It really grosses me out to see hair that's not attached to someone's body. So the thought of straining something that I'm going to eat with horsehair kind of disturbs me. But I've never had a need to use a wooden drum, so thankfully I don't think I have to run into that problem in my life. Next is a Stanley knife, which they're actually using the tool maker name Stanley. That's a brand that makes, you might remember if you've been in a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a hardware store, they make all kinds of drills and tools of all kinds, and this is just a box cutter, but it's Stanley brand. And I guess they say that it's great for scoring the outer skin of pork roasts and hams. Okay then, I would assume you'd want a different one than the one you use to actually cut boxes. Transparent plastic ruler, an apple corer, a fine metal sieve or passoire. Similar in function to the drum sieve, it is used to puree fruits and vegetables and to strain stock, bouillon, and soups. Another thing that's been very interesting to me is seeing the grammar differences from this book to current. In this book, they don't use what's called the Oxford comma, which is used when you're naming off a list of things. Let's say raindrops, nightstands, lamps, and computers. After each one of your items, you put a comma, raindrops, comma, nightstands, comma, lamps. The final comma right there before the and is called the Oxford comma, and it's generally seen as necessary today, but they're not using it here. And I also noticed in the foreword that they weren't even putting in a final and in their lists. They were just listing things and stopping, so you didn't really know when you were coming to the end of the list, which is kind of weird, but I'm sure only other English nerds are gonna even care about that. Okay, oval and round melon scoops, a lemon stripper or cannelle knife, wooden wheel, a sieve roller, which is a sturdy wooden lemon-shaped tool that revolves and pushes simultaneously, pressing any substance through a drum sieve with amazing speed. A chinois is a sieve especially good for smoothing finished sauces and other creamy mixtures, and like the passoire, it is also good for pureeing foods. I guess people used to be a lot more concerned with not having like lumpy or pulpy sauces. I've never needed to use a sieve ever in anything I've cooked. I strain things sometimes, but all of the sauces I've ever homemade, I've never needed to do that. So I wonder if that's still something that's done, just only in like higher cuisine. Okay, a colander, a rubber spatula, slotted metal or wooden spoon, strainer, a parsley mill or mouli grater, food grater, wire whisk or whip, wooden spoons, a butter curler, long-handled ladles, and a paintbrush. And they say, yes, that's right, a paintbrush. It's the best tool we've found for applying glazes or removing excess flour from working surfaces. Wash it in warm soapy water and rinse it thoroughly after each use. Okay then. That's actually a little bit of a helpful hint for the flour situation, because I know I always get flour on my countertops when I'm cooking with it, and it really is a pain in the butt to kind of sweep away. But generally I've just been taking like a damp cloth and it wipes away really easily. They have a similar style on the next page with home bakery equipment. They have one page that's a full color picture and another that corresponds with this equipment. So most of this I probably don't know because I don't really bake that often. I make muffins. I shouldn't say I don't bake. I don't bake pastries very often. I use the oven a lot for roasting vegetables and making lasagnas and all kinds of things that the oven is useful for. But I really haven't had a whole lot of practice making like pastries. I've made cakes, I've made cookies, muffins, and like little crescent rolls, but yeah, I don't have that much experience baking. I wish I did. I guess I should try it more. But I also think it would be kind of dangerous because I love pastries, and if I could make pastries really well, I feel like I'd just gain a bunch of weight. So really they didn't do this one as in depth. They say equipment plays such an important part in making the art of bread baking an enjoyable pastime. You will probably they don't have any punctuation. An enjoyable pastime. You will probably want to own some of the tools pictured here. If you have difficulty finding some of them, check with a local baker. He'll probably direct you to his own supply house where you'll find all the equipment you want and more. It's just so funny to think how like scaled down things were, and the idea of having a local baker. I mean, I know of a few bakeries in town, but I doubt that they have their own supply house. Okay, so they have bread baskets, crocks, brioche molds, brushes. And then on the next page, they don't have like a real life picture, they just have a drawing of baking sheets, tartlet pans, tart pans, which are not to be confused with tartlet pans apparently, plain and fluted flan rings, plain and fluted pastry cutters, and pie pans. So after introducing you to all the crazy amounts of tools that you'll need to spend money on, they get into the idea of garnishing with fruits and vegetables. There is something about an elegant appearance that makes good food more delicious. Do you agree? I don't know if I agree with that. Some of the things I think are most delicious are sloppy burgers and I don't know. I think if you're hungry, that's the real key. Anything is delicious when you're hungry. That's why you hear oohs and ahs when a hostess presents a beautiful array of refreshments even before the guests taste them. Tantalizing food displays are often the products of hostesses who make the most of garnishing. If you have ever been envious of cooks with the snack of making food so appealing, there's no reason to be any longer. Our step-by-step illustrations on garnishing will help you make your own beautiful and tempting creations to impress your friends the next time you entertain. So they talk about color being important. And on the next page, this really stuck out in my mind and memory because it's so strange to me. I think the picture that they used to show these garnishes is incredibly ugly. So on this side here, you can see all the different garnishes they're going to teach you to make. And I just think that it's so weird that they put oranges on sort of an orange hued background. They kind of almost look to me like something that you stick your hand in and try to guess what you're touching. I would not want to eat my food if it came with any of these things on them, especially a half of a hard-boiled egg with parsley on it. It's just such a strange thing. But they teach you how to use this lemon stripper to decorate the outside of an orange to be attractive when you cut it, I guess. They get into like peeling oranges, how to cut skinless citrus fruit sections, and how to make an orange basket, which is, in my opinion, the most terrifying of all their creations. Just down kind of in the corner with the leaf sticking out. I don't think I would be any more compelled to eat my food if I saw that on my plate. I love oranges, but something about the way they're just hanging like cut off fingers or like Zoidberg's mouth tentacles. I don't want to eat an orange that looks like that, personally. Although, fun fact, the reason why some restaurants put an orange slice or two on your plate is because it is a palate cleanser, and after you eat your food, the citrus burst in your mouth will sort of reset your taste, I guess, so that you'll be either ready for dessert or fresher upon leaving, I guess. I'm not against the orange, but I'm not behind the presentation that they're trying to say is going to make you the best entertaining house on the block here. They teach you how to make gherkin pickle tassels, cooked carrots cut into shapes, filleted mushrooms, and tomato flowers. They also teach you to make other vegetable flowers, none of which I find particularly attractive. And again, I think they really could have done a better job with their photos. It kind of seems like they were using a disposable camera and all of the resolution was sort of washed out, or like they turned up the hue unnecessarily. They then get into your equipment for cakes and puddings, which has a picture and description as we saw before. And they have some advice about preparing cake pans, as well as making your own icing bags. That's something I can certainly say I've never done, even though I really like that look of icing things, and I've always wanted to give it a shot. Really the only icings I've ever used have been the kind that comes in a tub that you just kind of smear all over. And then the little squirt bottle ones to like draw happy birthday, but they're kind of like a gel that's probably 90% food coloring and 10% some kind of gelatin. But I've definitely always wanted to use like a real icing bag and try it. They actually have some cool videos on Instagram of people icing things. I find those mesmerizing. Okay, this is one of my favorite pages. It's on table settings. A good hostess knows that the effort she puts into finishing touches makes the difference between the ordinary and the elegant. Chopped chives for the soup, or chocolate leaves on the chocolate cake. These extras add much more than the little effort required in their preparation would make it appear. In much the same way, the good hostess should see that the atmosphere is pleasant and relaxed, so that mealtime becomes an occasion to be enjoyed and savored, a retreat from the tensions of the day. Otherwise, all her careful meal planning and food preparation were in vain. Pleasant surroundings include not only your own attitude as hostess, which sets the tone of the meal, but also the appearance of the table itself. The table should be covered with a tablecloth, or, especially in summer when a bare table gives the impression of coolness, attractive placemats, and a runner down the center of the table. A pretty bowl, a vase of flowers, or a seasonal motif will do much for atmosphere. You'll find, too, if you make it a practice to set an attractive table, even for family occasions, you will gain confidence in your entertaining. I'd like to first point out that I think it's funny that when they talk about like the baker and other professions, they always use the he pronouns, but then as soon as they're talking about the person who's going to make the food and set the table, they only use she and her pronouns. Which again, I grew up pretty conservative, so I'm not like flabbergasted when pronouns are used in a more conventional way, but I just think that this is really over the top to the point where it's funny, because it's so very clearly putting women in their place, and some of the most famous chefs and some of the people who I've been entertained by and enjoyed a meal with have been men. So I don't know, I just think it's the whole air of this book is just funny to me. And I also love number 2, that make it a practice to set an attractive table even for family occasions. Like family is so much less important than strangers or guests, friends that you might have over, that you should mainly reserve your entertaining abilities or the warmness that you bring to the table should be kicked up a notch for people who are not in your family. I'm glad that has kind of turned around a little bit. I do think that if you're going to have people over, it's appropriate to go out of your way for them and make them comfortable and try to have, be a good host or hostess. But at the same time, I also think that family can't be undervalued, especially in this regard. For all the problems that my family might have had, we always ate dinner together at night, and I think that eating with your family or whomever you consider your family and not watching the television but talking and connecting can do so much for your like social abilities, for your mentality, for your mood, being able to listen to other people, take turns in speech, and work on presenting yourself well throughout a meal. I think those things are really important. They add a lot to who you are as a person, and your ability to be social and to feel more comfortable when you're out with other people. Because most people, even if they have a difficult family dynamic, they're still more comfortable in a lot of ways with their family. They would do or say things that they wouldn't necessarily with others. So, I don't know. I would consider, not that I'm, Dr. Laura or Dr. Phil or anything, but I think even if you only like once a week do no TV dinner, where you actually like just talk about your day or whatever, about something you're excited about, anything, with your family, that's like a huge benefit, and it's something that's really worth instilling into your family, and your children will remember and appreciate that and look back and have fond memories of being with the whole family, whether that's just parents or a parent or grandmother or whatever guardian, if there's any siblings or cousins. It's important and it matters. So anyway, that was a bit of an aside, but I'm a huge champion of family dinners. I think that they're really fun and good, and we often used to end our night with like playing a game as a family too, spoons or a board game or cards or something, and not everyone has to participate in that, but it still is helpful for the development of children. Okay, so back to this nonsense. Illustrated above is the formal dinner setting, rarely used in its entirety now except for diplomatic affairs, but nice to know about. The formal setting is the basis in varying degrees of informal placement. The table is covered with a lace or linen cloth that hangs 9 to 15 inches over the table on all sides. Napkins are folded once the long way and twice the short way to form a rectangle as illustrated. The silver is placed about 1 inch from the table edge. About 18 to 24 inches of dining space is allowed each guest. Can you imagine getting your little ruler out and making sure everyone has exactly 18 to 24 inches? Okay, the diner uses the pieces on the outside first, working his way in as the meal progresses. We're back to those masculine pronouns. As a general rule, not more than 3 pieces of silverware are set to each side of the service plate. In the above illustration, provision has been made for seafood appetizer, soup, fish, and meat courses. A butter plate is optional. In some parts of the country, the salad course replaces one or the other of these courses. Formal dinners are served by servants who clear the utensils, plates, and glasses after each course. Wow. Anytime the plate is removed and the next course is not served immediately, a service place is set in front of the guest, except after the meat course when only the water glass remains. The table is cleared of crumbs and the dessert course is served. So in this diagram, right here, they have an appetizer or seafood fork, a fish fork, a meat fork, the service plate, napkin and place card if desired, Then there's a meat knife, a fish knife, and a soup spoon. Water glass, sherry glass, red wine glass, white wine glass. They gonna be turned. And then individual salt and pepper shakers. It's a whole situation. Usually we just have a fork and I'll add a knife if we need it. That's really funny. On the next page, they have the informal dinner setting and the buffet setting. And the page after that seems to be what your spread should look like, ideally, for a luncheon. In the informal dinner setting, they have a different whole thing going on. Napkin, dinner fork, salad fork, dinner plate, appetizer, salad knife, dinner knife, soup spoon, appetizer fork, butter dish and knife, cigarettes, ashtray, and matches, which are listed as optional, a water glass, and a wine glass. The buffet setting includes a centerpiece, plates, the main dish, 2 vegetables, rolls, relish plate, silver, which is all your forks and spoons and whatnot, napkins, coffee service, cups, cream, and sugar. It's just too funny. For the luncheon setting, they say this table supports our contention that the most important thing for you to remember is that dishes and silverware be attractively arranged and the atmosphere relaxed. The centerpiece of irises, begonias, and pink carnations is low enough so that it won't interfere with conversation, and the pink of the flowers is picked up in the water lily folded napkins. See next page. Combining crystal and silver goblets adds a note of elegance to the more informal china. My goodness. I think I would want the centerpiece to be obstructing me from whomever was throwing such a party. It reminds me a lot of like the very fancy dinners that they had in Downton Abbey, the TV show, which I must confess I'm a huge fan of. I don't think I ever saw the last 1 to 2 seasons because Hulu took it off, or whomever I was watching it through, I think Hulu, no longer had rights to it or something. So I don't think I ever actually finished the show, but I was fully obsessed with it when it came out. And I've heard that it's similar to an older show called The Tudors, which my mom really liked. And as I've mentioned, I'm a bit of an Anglophile, and I just thought Downton Abbey was really well done. I thought the acting was really good. Not that I want that kind of society that's, so separated and segregated, because certainly I would be in the lower class anyway. I just think it's very interesting to see that people really lived like that. Like, you didn't have to be royalty, you just had to have a lot of money. And I guess it's kind of still like that. I'm pretty sure that there are probably rich people who have effectively servants, who maybe even have chefs or people who carry out their food service and whatnot, which I think I think the difference is that now so many more people exist in the middle and lower classes that it seems ridiculous to like employ other people to do the things that we all have to do on our own. I don't know. Not to say that there isn't also perfectly respectable professions of being like a personal chef or something, but I just could never get behind the idea of employing someone to like feed me food, like someone to literally set the food in front of my face. I think even if I was a billionaire, I just would never feel comfortable with that. I don't know. Okay, so they teach you how to fold a napkin water lily, which I was thinking the last time I was kind of going through this that it might be fun to do a video where I show different types of napkin folds, because as many of you know, I used to work at old folks' homes and we had to fold their napkins in various shapes to make the dining room look nice. So I know quite a few napkin folds, and this could be one that I could add to that list. So that might be an interesting idea. They then get into butter and different shapes, butter trees, butter balls, all kinds of butter spirals, butter flowers. And then they teach you some recipes for some basic savory butters. There's a garlic, parsley, savory mint, savory paprika, and savory anchovy butters. And then they teach you about cutting lemon shapes, but they made the pictures with oranges for some reason. Then they teach you how to use a mandoline, which is a vegetable slicer. This always just reminds me of, I guess it's pronounced mandoline, but I've always called it a mandoline. It reminds me of like when you go to a supermarket in America, there's usually a deli counter where you can get fresh cut meats and cheeses and things of that nature. And they have a machine that you stick the larger block of meat or cheese onto, and you kind of run this handle that slices the meat or cheese, and I've always loved watching that. It's so mesmerizing. I think if I ever worked at a deli counter, I would probably just cut meats and cheeses more than necessary because it looks so much fun. Okay. It's actually kind of weird that we have that option and you can buy like packaged meats. I don't know. America really just overdoes it. Okay. Equipment for making ice creams and ices. I also wanted to mention that they are very politically incorrect with their references to Asian cultures, which is uncomfortable just growing up how I've grown up. But they do use the word like Oriental a lot, or they try to seem like they know what they're talking about with a lot of Asian cuisines, when I would be surprised if they had any Asian people who helped actually make this book. So sorry for that. Then they get into the fundamentals of fondue cookery, which fondue was also another big, like, 70s thing. So, continuing with the theme of the time, they say, tired of being alone in the kitchen? Why not make fondue right at the dinner table? There's no need to wait for company to come. Surprise and delight your family with fondue dinner. It's sure to provide pleasure and excitement even for the youngest members of the family. The word fondue comes from the French word fondre, which means to melt. According to legend, the original fondue was developed in Switzerland during the 18th century. The Swiss baked bread and made cheese during the summer and fall months and stockpiled a supply which had to last throughout the long winter. Needless to say, before the next summer arrived, the cheese and bread had become very hard and difficult to chew. Some ingenious Swiss peasant decided to try melting the cheese and dunking the stale bread into the melted cheese mixture. Presto, the first fondue. This lesson includes recipes for 2 different kinds of fondue, cheese and Italian vegetable. Cheese fondue is, of course, the classic one. The basic cheese fondue is made from 2 different types of Swiss cheese. A mild type, Emmentaler, not sure how to say that, and the more robust Gruyere. If a very mild fondue is desired, use only the first. A heartier mixture may be made entirely of the second. And they show the fondue equipment, which is a wick burner, an alcohol burner, the fondue pot, flame, and cover. Did y'all hear that? It sounded like my pipe just bursted. Okay, hopefully not. Okay, presenting food for gifts is the next station in the book, and they have things wrapped in cellophane all over the place. This next page is another one of my personal favorites, and it is the kitchen planning page, and I am delighted to read this to you because I think it's hilarious. Do you ever lift? I love how everything sounds like a commercial, by the way, for like a pain pill or something. Do you ever lift stacks of pans in order to reach the one you need? Are there dark corners in your kitchen where you must combine Braille technique with location familiarity in order to perform everyday tasks? Do you feel as though you've walked a mile in the course of preparing an evening meal, crossing your kitchen again and again? These are a few of the problems that can be solved with proper kitchen planning. The kitchen, more than any other room in the house, deserves consideration of storage, appliances, and accessories for accessibility and working ease. In this section, we will analyze the tasks that are performed in the kitchen, explore organizational techniques, and suggest ways to make your kitchen more efficient and pleasant throughout the storage by use approach. No expensive, out-of-reach ideas are to be offered here. Instead, you will find practical suggestions that can be put into use immediately. You may well find that by investing 3 or 4 hours rearranging your kitchen equipment today, you will save that many hours of extra work and motivation every week from now on. If you had to take an inventory of the activities you perform in the kitchen, a general listing would include preparing of and cooking food, meal planning, food storing, setting, serving, and clearing the table, washing and drying dishes and utensils, and general kitchen cleaning. All the activities related to food preparation in the kitchen center around one or more of the three basic kitchen tools: the stove, the sink, and the refrigerator. The most advantageous arrangement of these appliances in terms of motion and step saving is a triangle connecting the three, with the perimeter of the triangle not exceeding 22 feet. Of course, this is the ideal and not always possible with the variety of kitchen floor plans available. However, whatever the floor plan, there is room for efficiency if the appliances are carefully located. There are 4 basic floor plans into which all kitchens generally may fit. The one-wall kitchen, in which all appliances are lined side by side, is the least desirable arrangement. However, sorry to those of you who have a one-wall kitchen. However, the most can be made of it by locating the sink between the stove and the refrigerator with counter space by each. I don't think I would like that. Like having my refrigerator and my stove and then having the space in between those have a sink in it. I feel like I need prep space or something. The corridor kitchen, or Pullman style plan, places appliances and workspace along 2 paralleled walls. I think this is called a galley kitchen now, with an aisle in between. The refrigerator and stove should be on one side and the sink on the opposite. More efficient than the one-wall plan, the main drawback of this layout is that such a kitchen often serves as a passageway and receives a great deal of traffic flow. To alleviate this problem, it should be closed at one end. So just nail up a wall. Another common pattern is the L-shaped kitchen. For maximum facility, the sink should be in the corner of the L with the refrigerator to one side and the stove to the other, and of course, counter space beside each. Finally, the U-shaped kitchen, using the traditional and time-tested triangle arrangement, is the most efficient floor plan. The sink is at the bottom of the U, and the stove and refrigerator opposite each other on the arms of the letter. As well as her kitchen floor plan, every homemaker's work pattern is different. However, we offer the following arrangement suggestions as guidelines to using the storage by use approach. After you've read our suggestions, examine your own way of doing things and then decide where you first use particular items and where they will be more efficiently stored in your kitchen. The basis of the storage by use plan is the analyzing of kitchen activities in relation to the major appliances, around which each task centers, then storing the utensils needed to perform each task in the area where it will be first used. A work counter is needed beside each major appliance. A cook needs space to put hot dishes from the oven, space to handle dishes and prepare vegetables to be cooked, and space to place the foods as they are removed from the refrigerator. Why not the table? The appliances and their work counters form a logical division of a kitchen into 3 work centers: the refrigerator and preparation center, the sink center, and the cook and serve center. Since uncooked foods generally are drawn from the refrigerator, studies have revealed that a counter by the refrigerator will accommodate almost 3/4 of a homemaker's food preparation activities. For this reason, we named this area the refrigerator and preparation center. All that is needed for baking or cooking is located here, where foods are prepared for these operations. So they continue to talk about placing your utensils and small appliances in each of your centers, and they talk about what to put in your cabinets. In the perfect kitchen, a cook will have access access to several countertop materials, each suited to particular uses. There should be a chopping board for meat and vegetable cutting, a heat-proof counter of tile or stainless steel by the stove, a marble surface for pastry, and cleanable, long-wearing surfaces everywhere else, such as formica or laminated plastic counters. Ew, girl. For most women, work counters should be about 36 inches in height for comfort when performing preparation procedures. To figure this more exactly, deduct about 7 inches from the measure of the distance from your bent elbows to the floor. Proper counter height can contribute immeasurably to a cook's well-being. Stay in shape, ladies. Where counter space is limited, or to cut a large kitchen down to size, a cooking island is a wonderful solution, with the added advantage of taking the cook's face away from the wall, as well as turning empty floor space into workspace. An island may also provide extra storage. Yikes. And this is what you should look like. Blonde, white, and hard at work, with all of your lovely dishes surrounding you. Silly. She's got some overflow problems going on with one of her pots there. Oh goodness. Okay, so that's definitely one of my favorite sort of little excerpts from this book. The general information lasts a few more pages. They talk about Oriental cookery, basics of carving, and that's it. And then they get into appetizers and soups. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I definitely get a kick out of reading this, so I'm glad to have done it again, even if this is my 5th hour of recording from this book. It's renewed funny for me since I've been away from it for so long. And I have quite a few other videos in mind that I'm hoping to make soon, although things are a little hectic for me here right now. I'm gonna do my best to keep producing as much as possible, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying it. I've been really loving all of your comments, and even if I haven't had time to reply to yours, I have read it and I'm sure enjoyed it. So thank you all for always sharing so much with me and being so kind. Yeah, I don't know how these page turns sound in this configuration, but I'm going to end the video just by flipping through the pages for a while in case it sounds as nice as it does in real life, and if not, I will just cut the video here and say goodbye, and I hope to see you in my next video.